Welcome to MQL5 Marketplace Reviews. The purpose of this channel is to provide an independent evaluation of pretty much the most popular products that are available to traders in the MQL5 Marketplace. What we will typically expect from this channel is for us to go through the reviews of specific products from authors, generally top-rated authors of expert advisors, as well as authors of popular indicators. We will provide our own rating as far as the reliability of the indicator, plus a complexity rating. That will help us provide you with feedback as far as how difficult it is to actually use the indicator or the algorithm. And we will also have a paid subscription channel which will provide all of our own custom settings that we pour into these indicators after looking at the reviews. In this first video, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through the MQL5 Virtual Server setup, how to set up the environment, and how to set up our first indicator that we're actually going to review within the marketplace. So without that, with that being said, let's go into the MQL5 Marketplace and see what we're talking about. So this in itself is the MQL5 Marketplace. This is where the magic happens for all the traders that are looking for custom indicators. They're looking for expert advisors to provide, extra sleep for those traders that are night traders, as well as automated risk management. What we generally see is that a lot of these reviews are not always going to be accurate, or some of them, the reviews are enticed by the developers offering additional free programming, such as offering scanners and other things. So we're going to start with MetaTrader 4. It's the more popular, and we'll go to paid indicators. And generally, when we look at that, we can see all of the popular ones that have these 5-star ratings. They've got hundreds of reviews, and different people feel differently about these indicators and these algorithms. So just taking a look at some of these indicators, we know this guy's got 17 reviews. Going down the channel, he's got a full 5 stars, so he shows up. This one's got 598 reviews. Now, bear in mind, this is the actual indicator that we're going to be using for the virtual server setup from Pipfinite Breakout Edge. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and forward test this indicator for the week, and we will provide a printout of the results. So the testing period for this is going to be actually from tomorrow morning until next week, Friday. So at the close of that Friday session, so we have a rolling week to a rolling week, rather than from just a Sunday session on the Pacific Rim side to a Friday session. We want to have a full cycle. So, this is what's going to be tested tomorrow. So going right into how to set up the virtual server, you first need to log into your terminal. And once you're in your terminal, you have your environment right here. This environment is ultimately, where you can access your market. I'm sure you're all familiar with how the terminal works, so we're not going to go into a tutorial of that. Rather than doing that, what we will do is we will show what it looks like when setting up a virtual server. So let's go ahead and go into the terminal. You're going to generally have a lot of information here on the Market Watch tab. Now, depending on the currency pair that you're targeting, whether it's euro dollar, which tends to be the most liquid, the most popular, or dollar yen, or you're looking into crypto such as Bitcoin, which seems to be a really popular one right now, which we can go ahead and load up. You're going to have a lot of indication here. Now, these prices that you're seeing on the Market Watch tab, they do eat up a lot of virtual memory, and you want to set your environment for a virtual server to begin with. So what I generally do is I hide all once I have actually set up the windows that I plan to run my indicators on a virtual server for. And so let's go in and bear with me here a second. And let's take a look. Okay, so with that, we will first load the indicators. And we can do this with any expert as well. Let's go into the market. Let's look at what we've purchased. And when we go into recent purchases, as long as the terminal doesn't freeze on us, of course, we are going to go to some of the more popular indicators. So let's install the breakout edge indicator to begin with. So that way we can run it on the server. Okay. Once breakout edge has been installed, okay, which we can see it right here, we are going to go ahead and attach it. And one thing that's important before attaching the indicator and setting up your virtual server, well, there's a couple of things that you need to know. So first, what you generally want is to make sure your MetaQuotes ID is working. And you can go into notifications, you enable push notifications, and you link this to your cell phone, or you can enable email notifications as well if that's a little bit easier for you. What I generally will do, if you have an iPhone, you can go into your settings, and once you're in your settings, you go to chat and messages, you'll get your MetaQuotes ID. Has letters, it's a combination, so, and then you can test it to make sure that your phone is receiving the messages. So that way, if you don't want to babysit the terminal, which is kind of the point in having a virtual server, is you want reliability of connection, but also, you know, if you have specific indicators that are going to identify trade setups for you and you're away from your computer because you can't watch the market 24/7, that is the purpose of having some of these indicators. So notification has been sent over to the mobile phone. What we'll do is we'll make a separate video on how the mobile phone and the mobile terminal generally will interact with your desktop terminal. So let's go ahead and OK that. That works. Let's load up the indicator. This is the breakout edge that we were just looking at on the other page. One of the more popular indicators. Let's go into the input section. Now what we want to do generally is we want the settings to be based on the time frames that we want to place trades. Now this is a pretty popular indicator because it's going to identify massive market movement in one particular direction, and you have different options and different settings. And as you can see, as we look at it, this kind of shows you how you want to set your terminal. And based on how it wants to set the terminal, it'll give you statistics. It'll tell you, how likely you are to hitting the take profit and hitting a few others, based on its own statistical run. So we're going to go into an independent review of this actually in our next video. So we're not going to get into too much detail right now, but what we will do, we're going to set it up for day trading. And, generally I usually use the scalp setting, which is a little bit different because when you're in the middle of a breakout, you do not want to be late to the party. And generally on a 1 hour indication basis, a lot of times an hour is a long time for a breakout. That's an extremely long run rate. I usually will not take that. So generally speaking, what I do is I set it on a 15-minute to identify that early. Now you can run your own trading strategy the way that you like. For purposes of this video, we are only showing you how the virtual server is going to play in this. So range filter, we're going to put it at about 1 point. Actually, this is a much larger run rate with Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, I'm going to max the range filter recommendation to 2.0. In fact, let me just take a look here and see what they have on their 4 hour. It's probably still going to be there at 2.0. So we're going to keep the range filter at 2.0. But what we will do is we'll change the take profit factor to 3.0 instead, just because the run rates tend to be significantly larger with Bitcoin. And so it moves almost with the same type of a run rate as an index. So scrolling down, what we also want to do is just verify that we're going to receive a push notification. And right here, we can enable push notifications. In fact, we can enable email alerts. So one of the coolest things about the Pipfinit indicator base is the developers are very, very on top of their game. And they want to make sure that the traders are constantly notified of setups. They do this by allowing the push notification alerts within their actual mobile app. That's very, very helpful. So I highly, highly recommend to activate that feature if you have a MetaQuotes ID, which you will be assigned one as long as you are a member of the MQL5 trading community, which it's really easy to set up. So, and just so that way you're aware, the broker that I use for this is IC Markets. IC Markets tends to be the best straight-through processor as far as when it comes to trading. So their clearinghouse is well capitalized, and they are an electronic communications network, so you are going straight through the marketplace. So you really can't go wrong with IC Markets. So continuing on with this, let's go ahead and OK that. And we're going to drop this to a 15-minute chart. That's just going to make it so that way we're not having to worry about being too late to the party. And what we will do is we'll go into the 1 hour on the euro dollar. We're going to drop that to a 15-minute. We're going to do pretty much the same thing with a couple of exceptions. Obviously, we're going to drop the period to 5 again. For the scalp setting, range filter is going to be, we're going to drop that a little bit lower. We'll put that at 1.5. We don't need the range to be that huge. And the take profit, we're just going to drop it to 1.5 as well. So that way it's kind of set up for a scalp setting on the breakout edge indicator. So what we do next is we enable the push notification. And we OK that. It's going to load it up. Now, if we were running an algorithm also at the same time, we would add a different window for that algorithm. So that way the algorithm can also run. Now bear in mind, we are setting up the environment right now for a virtual server. So ultimately what we want to do next is we want to go over to your navigator window, which we're going to make it bigger, which is right here. We're going to open up this box because this is assuming you've already subscribed to a virtual server through MQL5. Many people will generally go through other virtual servers. They might even buy a VPS through Beaks FX. I recommend the MetaTrader Developers virtual server because it's super fast. It's really easy to use. To sign up, you can just right-click and generally right here you'll register a virtual server, but you already have it in this case. And I recommend to do the 1-year subscription. It's $153. It's really all you're going to pay for something that's really reliable. And when it's time, because you're using your right click over here, you're going to synchronize experts, indicators, and signal. And once you do that, you're going to look in your journal and it's going to let you know that the migration was processed successfully. So when we go in and we do that, if you had automatic trading enabled for algorithms, it would then disable that because it would have processed the migration over to the virtual server. Now that the environment is set up, you're set. You will receive text messages of trade setups in this case, and this kind of moves us into our forward testing of this indicator for the breakout edge indicator. And some of the other settings that you can do to keep it from getting congested, you can go into your tools, and what you do is click on charts, and you can reduce your bars also to like 50,000 bars in the chart, no more than that. That will also save from eating up a lot of virtual memory on the virtual server. It keeps the indicator from lagging too much. In this case, I'm only running 2 indicators. Basically, it's the same indicator, but it's on 2 different instances and 2 different charts. And so with that being said, it's going to send notifications on a 15-minute in the event that there is a massive market movement. So that way I know that there's a high probability from the entry point that I'm not too late in the middle of a breakout that could last up to an hour. It could last up to 4 hours. Most breakouts in general that I've seen usually last on average about maybe 45 minutes, generally speaking. So, and that can always change. Once again, this is how you do set up the virtual server within the MQL5 Marketplace. Thank you again for watching, and look for us on our next video where we actually run the forward test of the breakout edge indicator, which is our first review that we're going to be launching. So you will see posted results within the next video for the entire trade session from Friday, April 23rd until the following Friday, which would be April 30th. So thank you again for visiting our channel.